Hello everyone, we are with Laurence Tubiana, Dean of the Paris Climate School, to talk about the Master in Ecological Transition, Risk and Governance offered at the Paris Climate School, a brand new graduate school created at Sciences Po. Laurence, thank you so much for being with us.
Pleasure.
We'll have the pleasure of having Emmanuel Guérin, Vice Dean of the Paris Climate School, as well as Ariane Joab-Cornu in just a moment. Now, Laurence, thank you again for being with us. Before diving into the specifics of the Master in Ecological Transition, Risk and Governance, could you tell us why did Sciences Po want to create a school dedicated to ecological transition? What motivated the establishment of a school dedicated to the ecological transition?
Thank you for this question. I think it's really important at that particular moment of history to have a new school in Sciences Po with all this social science background, just to deal with the major problem of our planet and our century. And you know, it just seems to be evident that we need that because this transition is very uncertain, it's contested, and we need to have a place where science, facts, disciplines, in particular the social science discipline, help understand what the transition could be. So for me, for us, it was absolutely a moment in history where we should not miss, and we should have, with all the background again of the capacity of Sciences Po as a very high achieving school and research team, just to address this with all the discipline we can offer. And you know, sometimes it's a lot about science, and it has to be about science and technology, but it's about history, economy, sociology, all the discipline, and law, all the discipline we need to understand what is happening now.
Thank you, Laurence. Now, the Sciences Po Paris Climate School is not the first school dedicated to ecological transition. How does the specific Sciences Po Paris Climate School, newly created, differ from other schools in handling ecological transition?
Well, first, it is a school that is the new one and the important one and the first one in European field. And of course, it will not be only about Europe, economy and sociology. It's about the world and the way Europe is situated. So that European dimension is very important. The second one is most of the schools, in particular in Europe and elsewhere globally, are focused on the science and the technology. And this one has a particularity to, yes, build on, because we need science and technology at sort of the basic elements that all the students have to know, but really look at the capacity of the different humanities and social science to contribute to the discussion. And it is important because we need to connect different levels of the governance of all this very big complexity of climate and biodiversity and nature, which is at the same time the local, because everything happened at the end of the day at local level, but national and European level, of course, because Europe is a main actor in all this, and at international level, because we cannot ignore the geopolitical factor that are really now challenging and supporting at the same time this transition to a green future. So it's a very important new thing to put the social science at the core and really understand that there is different level of governance to deal with that problem. It's not only international agreement, not only international law or European law or national one, it's a whole society evolution, both on the economic side as well as the social side.
Thank you very much, Laurence. Now, let's have a word on applications, applicants, prospective students. What type of students are you looking for the Master in Ecological Transition, Risk and Governance? Are there any disciplinary prerequisites? Who should apply? What type of students are you looking for?
First of all, we are looking for students that want to be the agent of change. As we know, this transition is not a fixed travel. There is a lot of uncertainty and challenges. And we need students that want to be these actors of the transition. That may be the first requirement. The second one is, of course, the academic quality, like the sort of normal demands of Sciences Po curriculum in general. And academic score on one side, and of course the quality of the project, which is linked to this demand or this willingness to embrace the future. And the third one is there is no particular curriculum that we need to apply for that. Many skills, from engineer school to scientific background to social science background, could be absolutely preferable. So I think the problem is really the willingness just to embrace that future and to be really involved in that project. And if I may add, it's not only a curriculum element, it's a willingness to be part of the discussion, a public discussion, both at national level, local level, and international level, is to be part of this discussion. And so this school is about curriculum and training, but it as well thinking, research, and public discussions.
Thank you very much, Laurence Tubiana, for being with us. We now have the pleasure of welcoming Ariane Joab-Cornu, Executive Director of the Paris Climate School. Ariane, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Ariane, if you may, let's talk about skills and knowledges acquired by students enrolled in the Paris Climate School. What skills and knowledge do students acquire when enrolled in the Master in Ecological Transitions, Risks and Governance?
So, we train students to become a strategic actor of the transition. What we mean is that we train them to become real climate natives, to have climate at the core of all their skill and knowledge, and to be able to connect scientific knowledge with legal, economic expertise and governance practices. To do this, we've thought of 6 pillars. First, we give them a systemic vision of the transition. This is twofold. First, how do you connect ecological topics with other topics such as employment, health, social issues? And second, how do you connect all the different scales of governance from international to very local? The second pillar is the interdisciplinary vision. Same, we've thought of this in 2 ways. Interdisciplinarity in terms of social sciences, so we give them a strong foundation in all the disciplines that we have at Sciences Po, such as sociology, history, and so on, but also we teach them how to ensure that those enter in dialogue with scientific disciplines such as biophysical sciences, engineering, and so on, because technology and biophysical sciences are also very important when it comes to the transition. We've also ensured that this training has a strong professional foundation and really links them to the job market. And so we've designed three specialization tracks. The first one, financing the transition. The second one, value chains and industrial transformation, that points to the changes in the real economy and sectoral transformation. And the third one, adaptation, risk, and resilience, that also points to adapting all of the organizations that we have. And the last point that is very important is methodologies and decision sciences. So how do you think in terms of uncertainty, and how do you make robust decisions?
Thank you so much, Ariane. You just presented the 6 intellectual pillars and the 3 specialization tracks offered to the students enrolled in the master. Now let's have a focus on the curriculum. We understand the master is a 2-year program. How are the 2 years of studies organized, and what are the main subjects that are taught to the students?
It is indeed a 2 years program taught in English in our campus in the heart of Paris. The curriculum is organized around a few pillars too. So first of all, the foundation courses that are the ones that are interdisciplinary courses in social sciences. So you have a course in economics for the transition, a course of history and sociology called Societies in Transition, that will look at how through history have societies transformed themselves and how have they managed the environmental topics. There's also a political science class that will be about the political economy of the transition, a geopolitics and diplomacy class that will look at how do you manage this global issue at the international level. So those are a bit the foundational classes that will really give you an in-depth understanding of the ecological transition. There's another pillar about methodology, as we've said, that will look, for example, at communication, disinformation, but also will give you skills in terms of scenario planning and so on, so that these skills really allow you to think in terms of uncertainty, to make robust decisions, and what we've talked about earlier. The last pillar that I want to talk about today is the one of the specialization track that will really be one class and one type of case studies per semester. And the idea of those tracks is to give you some very strong skills to insert yourself on the job market later on. So for example, if you take the track on financing the transition, at the end of your master's degree, you will be able to work in a financial authority, in a bank, be it public or private, but you will have both very strong financial skills and but linked to the transition topic.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ariane, for being with us today. We are now with Emmanuel Guérin, Vice Dean of the Paris Climate School. Emmanuel, thank you so much for being here today.
Pleasure.
And we'll talk about teaching methods and careers. Firstly, Emmanuel, if you may, let's talk about the teaching methods. What is the balance between theoretical teaching and practical application? What forms do those teachings take?
Well, first, to start with, it's really the ambition of this climate school at Sciences Po to bring together the theoretical approach to the ecological transition and the very practical skills that you will learn by being a student in this school and that will be directly applicable to the business world. There is, to start with, a series of theoretical courses that you will go through, each of the key disciplines at Sciences Po, and this is where there is real theoretical and intellectual ambition and seriousness in how we've designed the syllabus. To give you an example, you're not going to be taught a course on the economics of the environment. You're going to be taught a proper course in economics, both microeconomics and macroeconomics, revised through the lens of the ecological transformation. And then each of the three separate specialization tracks is really designed to go in depth into some working communities, financing the transition, the financing world, obviously, value chains and industrial transformation, the real economy, and adaptation, risk, and resilience, the entrance sector in particular. And so for each of those, including through the professors of practice that will give you those courses, you will really learn how to master the skills that are necessary to be a good either civil servant or business person.
Thank you, Emmanuel. And we understand that courses are taught by both the Sciences Po permanent faculty, but also by industry professionals serving as adjunct faculty. Now let's have a word on careers. In what jobs, what sectors of activity, and what type of organizations do graduates work?
So this is a very important part of what we've worked on to build this climate school at Sciences Po. We've really taken the time to listen to the possible future employers of the school to make sure that we properly understand at a very detailed level what is the type of skill sets that those future employers are looking for. And those future employers are both in the public sector, in public administration, either at the local or at the national or at the international level. They are also crucially very much the private sector, both in organizations of the financial sector. This is the case in particular for the first of those specialization, where private banking and private asset management are definitely some possible way forward for the students of the school. But also public development banks, both national, for example, the French Development Agency, or at the regional level, the European Investment Bank, but at the international level, the World Bank as well, and organizations like the UN or the OECD. When it comes to the specialization track on value chains and industrial transformation, the possible way forward is both to be for example, a policy person in a government or in an international organization specializing on energy or on agriculture or on industry, but also very much the both big and small companies working in each of those sectors. And finally, for the track on adaptation and resilience, we are aiming in particular for the insurance sector in the private world, but also very much for all of the civil servants who will be actually in charge of designing and implementing adaptation and resilient policies in cities or at the national level. So to wrap it up, I can say that we've put some real effort and some real seriousness in making sure that the school is both a place where you will have some solid theoretical foundations for the work you will do, but where you will be equipped with the practical tools that are necessary to succeed in your career.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Guérin. Our program is now coming to an end. Thank you all for watching. Thank you again, Emmanuel Guérin, Ariane Joab-Cornu, and Laurence Tubiana for being with us today. Thank you again for watching, and we hope to see you again at Sciences Po soon.
Sciences Po.